Right now, we are learning new details about a tentative debt ceiling deal being hammered out in Washington. Now, nothing is set in stone yet, as we've been saying, but the last-minute wrangling may be settled soon. There are two major conditions that could help lay the foundation for a compromise. The tentative agreement would fund the government through the 2012 elections and into 2013, a demand by President Obama. And the debt ceiling could be raised $2.1 to $2.4 trillion, depending upon the amount of corresponding spending cuts. That's just the beginning. Here now to help us understand the political dynamic at work, our Republican pollster Adam Geller, a former pollster for New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and Fox News contributor Jimmu Green is former president of the Women's Media Center. Good to see you both. Adam,
good to be here.
You know, this whole thing is obviously very, very complicated, and it is confusing, and thus it may take a while for the winners and losers to emerge from the smoldering political rubble, if you will. But do you see one side gaining over the other, Republicans over Democrats, Democrats over Republicans?
Yeah, listen, I think it's very, very clear that Republicans, and particularly the Tea Party members, have a lot to be happy about. No tax increases, for example, significant cuts in spending, and at least the dialogue and discussion about a balanced budget amendment.
Then
on
why,
the loser
you
side,
saw that poll, CBS poll, 71% of Americans don't like the way the Republicans have been handling this thing.
Because it comes to the loser question. The big loser is President Obama. Here's why. President Obama
He's not
came
a loser
across
in the CBS poll. He does much better.
Well, he's demagoguing the issue. He's petulant. He's political.
Well,
listen,
call it what you
strategy
may.
of
It may be
tweeting
working.
Compromise. It's you know, when people get to know, when the smoke clears. Wait a minute.
President Obama.
Hang on.
President
go one
Obama's
at a time.
approval rating is 40%. People know
All-time
President
low.
Obama. People are not familiar with this issue. They are frustrated with both sides. But the fact is that there's very little familiarity with the issue and very much familiarity with the president. 40% job approval, lowest job approval to date.
It is true the president happens to be doing a little bit better on this particular issue, but boy, his overall job approval ratings have plummeted to an all-time low, 40% under Gallup.
Well, I agree with Adam that the American people are frustrated.
You agree with Adam?
I agree with him that
Thank you.
The American people are frustrated with both parties. They're frustrated with the entire system. They're
so everybody
disgusted.
comes out a loser.
How much does it break your heart to watch that soldier who should be focused on protecting himself and his mission to be asking that question? And I don't think that's going to be lost on independence.
Our
I don't think
nerves
that's going
so
to be lost.
frayed, the American public so absolutely frustrated by this whole thing that it's a pox on both your houses.
Well, it is a pox on both of the houses, but I think President Obama comes out on this ahead. Looking at the deal that's on the table right now, we are not going to be revisiting this debate in 3 to 4 months, which was a big part of what Speaker Boehner and the Tea Party folks wanted to have.
What Adam is saying is the president lost on two major issues he wanted. He wanted revenue increases. He wanted a straight up or down on debt ceiling. He lost on both. How can he be a winner?
Well, we are going to have a conversation about revenue increases on the second half of this plan, the deal that is currently being discussed. And I think there's a lot of wrong information out there, but at the end of the day, the fact that we are going to get a deal is smack in the face of so many of the Tea Party representatives who came in for the first time and said,
I'm glad you brought that up because
Adam, it doesn't matter.
Adam,
take it or leave it.
The Republican Party has been fractured here, primarily by the New Conservatives. 22 defections on Friday in the Boehner bill that went down in flames. The intra-party squabbling has been fractious, to say the least. Does Boehner come out of this thing a whole lot weaker?
No, and here's why. Because at the end of the day, Boehner's doing what he has to do to keep as much of his caucus intact as possible. Let's go back to one of the things that Jimmu mentioned, very, very important. All President Obama wanted was for this thing he doesn't want to deal with it before November 2012. November 2012, Greg, is what unites that caucus at the end of the day. Period. End of statement.
Yeah. You know, Jimmu, the president's senior advisor, David Plouffe, today, still talking about a tax increase, and that is way off the table. In fact, I'll quote him. The president is for closing tax loopholes, making sure millionaires and billionaires contribute. I mean, is it time to give up the ghost on that? Ain't going to happen.
Absolutely not. That is what this special committee is going to be tasked with looking at. A balanced approach that will include revenue. And that is a conversation that the American people support. Overwhelmingly,
Jimmy,
they understand.
You know the other side on that committee. It's a bipartisan committee. Will never go with tax hikes. You know that. So
well,
therefore,
that's
under the plan, kicks in the so-called triggers of automatic spending cuts, not tax hikes. You know that's not going to happen.
Well, I think those triggers will be dramatic.
There's no trigger for a tax hike.
To get the Republicans on board. And again, that special committee isn't going to have, unfortunately, or fortunately for us, some of these very fringe crackpots who are willing to throw our economy under the bus.
Jammu, you're talking about, wait a minute, time out. First of all, again, stop with the political rhetoric. Stop with being petulant. Wait a minute, time out. You're saying crackpots. Let's talk about. You're supporting. You say revenue, but revenue really means higher taxes. David Plouffe, and it sounds like you, are supporting higher taxes. That's a no-go, especially when it comes to independence.
The majority of Americans
really support tax increases.
For deficit reduction, we have to have a combined approach. That it has to be spending cuts, and it has to be combined with tax revenue.
Adam,
and that is the reality that Republicans have denied.
In tax hikes in a slow recovery coming off of recession, facing a double dip.
Yeah.
If tax hikes are bad for that, aren't spending cuts also, because that withdraws revenue from the marketplace?
No. First of all, here's what you do. Spending cuts are going to be helpful because they're going to improve the markets.
You're taking government money away from the marketplace.
So not punishing job creators and allowing them to hire and create new taxpayers and new tax receipts are going to give you the revenue that you so crave.
Got to leave it at that. I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm getting the hard hook over here. You know, the producers, I got to live with them.
They stopped us from talking about jobs, and that's why they'll be held accountable.
Jammu Green, you got the last word. I knew you would. Good for you. Adam Geller, great to see you.
Thank you
both for coming by. Heather?